Hi everyone, my name's Patrick Fingler, and in this video I'll be highlighting some Geocortex Mobile customer success stories. If you're not familiar with Geocortex Mobile, it's the most capable framework for configuring and building custom mobile offline applications for the ArcGIS platform. Now, Esri provides a number of mobile applications themselves. You've got Collector for ArcGIS, Survey 123, Navigator, ArcGIS Indoors. So there's a lot of mobile applications already available, and I definitely encourage you to check some of those out if that's of interest. But really, Geocortex Mobile's all about being a framework for building custom offline applications for the ArcGIS platform and tailoring these applications for your end users, which are going to be field workers. Now, here at Geocortex, we're an Esri Platinum partner, and like Esri, we're a horizontal company and have organizations using our technology for both web and mobile applications in a variety of different sectors, from local government, oil and gas, utilities, water, public safety, and a variety of other different verticals. Now, what's common across all of these, though, is the requirement to perform offline field data collection processes. You might be a integrity engineer who needs to inspect a pipeline and investigate it for any leaks, or a government worker who has to do hydrant inspections. The requirement to have applications capable of performing your data collection activities and ensuring that the information that you're entering is validated is common across all of these sectors. So something I wanted to highlight. So now let's dive into a couple of examples to see how some of our customers are leveraging Geocortex Mobile for their field data collection activities. I'll start off by highlighting the Texas Boll Weevil Eradication Foundation, which were established in 1993 to eradicate the boll weevil pest from cotton-producing farms. And if you're not familiar with what a boll weevil is, it's essentially an invasive species of pests that feasts on cotton. Now, within Texas, there are approximately 6 million acres of cotton fields, which accounts for approximately 25% of all the cotton in the US, or cotton producing farms in the US. And to eradicate these Texas boll weevil pests, the foundation has been placing traps approximately every 1/10 of a mile along each of these cotton fields. Now, each trap needs to be inspected once a week, and each trap also may consist of a lure as well as strips. Now, lures might need to be replaced every 2 weeks, and strips can be sometimes need to be replaced every month. So this process requires quite a lot of field workers to go out, inspect traps, potentially replace lures, and potentially replace strips on an ongoing basis. Now, as you can see, they previously have been performing these trap inspections using a handheld scanner and barcoding system, which did the job but was quite cumbersome for field workers and was really hard to ensure proper QA measures. And as you know, Texas is a massive area, and the locations of these cotton fields and the locations of the associated traps were often in areas with no network connectivity, and as a result, these workers had to perform these data collections in an offline state. Now, the foundation currently has approximately 300 users out in the field inspecting approximately 100,000 traps every week. So the process needs to be simple, intuitive, and efficient. So I'd like to just dive into a demo to show you what the Texas Boll Weevil Eradication Foundation are doing using Geocortex Mobile to perform their trap inspections process. So I'm going to first kick things off by launching Geocortex Go, which is the companion app that ships with the Geocortex Mobile product. And you can access this application either from the Microsoft Store, Google Play Store if you're using Android devices, or Apple iOS Store. Now here I'm going to be demonstrating it on my workstation, but again, you'd likely be deploying this to your field workers on an iPad or Android device. So when you initially load Geocortex Go, it's going to ask you to either log in with an ArcGIS Online identity or log in with ArcGIS Enterprise. We also have the ability to try out a sample app that ships with the product. But here, I'm going to kick things off and log in with ArcGIS Online and enter the Texas Boll Weevil Eradication Foundation's ArcGIS Online organizational account and enter in some dummy credentials that they've happily provided us with. Once I log in as a field worker, I'll get a list of all of the applications that I've either created or more likely the applications that have been shared with me. And here we can see there's some development applications as well as some production applications. I want to select this development application so I'm not influencing any of the work that the Boll Weevil Eradication Foundation are performing. So here you can see we've launched the application, and now as a field worker, I've got the ability to start selecting some of these traps. So here you can see these kind of green dots are all traps that need to be inspected. We can see that these are the cotton fields. So here I've selected some grids, which is all of Texas. I can zoom to that feature. I can select this particular grid, which will zoom me to that feature, and the underlying field as well. And I can just clear all of those results if that's of interest. Now, all of this I'm currently doing, with internet connectivity. But if I navigate to the Map Areas tab here, I've got the ability to download offline areas and take this information offline. So I've already done that here, but the process of doing that is quite simple. When you have internet connectivity, you'd simply create an area. I'd call this, I don't know, grid 85013, specify the level of detail that you need, whether you want to include attachments, click create, and then you can download that. Now here I've created and already cached this data onto my device. So here you can see we've now panned to this particular map area, and if I zoom out, you can see these are the associated grids, and then everything within here is essentially offline that I can access and perform inspections on. So this is a trap that I might be interested in inspecting. Now, a field worker normally would have the ability to edit this, and this would be kind of the same process that collector would provide, but you likely want to restrict that process or provide a more intuitive method or more customized method for your field workers to inspect in this scenario traps. So what we've done is we've leveraged the workflow technology that Geocortex provides to essentially enable a field worker to inspect a trap. Now, when I select this option here, you can see I'm getting an alert saying that you need to be at least 30 feet away from the trap in order to inspect it. My current distance to the trap is a really long distance away, and that's because I'm currently in Victoria, which is where our head office is. Now, let's just go back online here and select my geolocation. You can see here I'm in Victoria, BC, which is a really long distance from Texas. So I'm going to go back and activate my map area. So bring me to the extent here. But right now I simply can't inspect this trap. And that's because the Texas Boll Weevil Eradication Foundation, one of their business requirements was that they wanted to ensure that their field workers were within 15 feet of a trap in order to inspect it, to really prevent, fraudulent inspections. So, how would I get around this? Well, because this is all built with our workflow technology, I'm going to navigate to Geocortex Workflow, which is another product that we provide that comes with Geocortex Mobile. And it's essentially a framework for building interactive forms and logic that can step your end user through a particular business task that they need to accomplish. Now, this is the inspection form that I've designed that a field worker would run through. And you can see it's very visual and kind of a flowchart designed. You can see here on the left, these are activities that a GIS admin would drag and drop to essentially construct the logic that they want to accomplish. There's activities like getting your field workers locations, doing routing, working with editing features, and you can identify which of these activities work when you are offline or not connected to a network. So if I go back to my toolbox here, you can see I'm only showing 146 of 179 activities, but I still have the ability to have my field workers do any buffering. I can still get their locations. I can still have them query layers and so on. Now here you can see I've wired up some logic to perform that initial geofence. If I remove it, then I'll have the ability to actually inspect that trap so that you can see the workflow in action. So here I'm just going to save that workflow and go back to my mobile application. Now in order to retrieve those edits that I've just performed, I'm just going to go to my I want to menu and click refresh app. And then now the next time I go to inspect any of these traps and click inspect trap, here you can see we're now panning to that trap and I've got my inspection form. Now, some of these fields I've wanted to be read-only, so I'm not allowing the field worker to change them. And then some of them I've specified as defaults, and then I'm providing the field workers with the options to perform these field data collection processes or trap inspection process. Now, additionally, we've got some validation. So if I click submit here, it's going to say that these fields are required. So let's say that I'm inspecting this trap. There's no kill strip and there is a lure. And the type of trap I'm inspecting is a Boll Weevil trap. I'm inspecting it at this current date and time. We're retrieving the user name who I'm logged in as. This is my ArcGIS Online account. And then I've got three different options here. So do I want to keep the trap where it is currently located? Do I want to move the trap to my geolocation or select a new location on the map? So here, if I try to move the trap to my geolocation and I click submit, you're going to see an alert here saying, please ensure the trap location is within the grid. So again, another requirement that they had was to ensure that the traps that trappers are creating or moving around are located in these grid systems. Because I'm in Victoria, there's no grid. So let's select a new location on the map instead. So I'll select a new location here, 84195, and click submit. And again, I'm doing all of this in an offline state. So here you can see my trap inspection's been completed, and I can now select my trap. And you can see here my information that I entered in, such as my trapper, the trapping date, as well as the grid number, which I selected, got auto-populated and presented in this form. Last but not least, I now have the ability to send these changes when I'm back in the office to my production geodatabase. I'm not going to do that in this scenario, but here I would be able to push these changes back online. And if I go online, because I haven't pushed those changes, you're not going to see that associated trap there yet. So that's the Texas Boll Weevil Eradication Foundation and how they're leveraging Geocortex Mobile and the associated Geocortex workflow technology to build a really specific tailored mobile data collection or trap inspection process for their field workers. And it's a really efficient process. You don't need to be a GIS admin to kind of walk through this whole process of inspecting a trap. Now, these workflows work offline, but we also have the ability to search for data offline as well. So if I wanted to search for like I don't know, maybe my name was Richard, I can see all of the traps in this offline area that Richard has inspected. So if we select this location here, we can see that this trapper is Richard. And if you needed a more intuitive way of doing that, then you could write up a workflow to kind of model that process and make it easy for your field workers to find the traps or work orders that they've been kind of assigned. And yeah. So just in summary, the field workers that work for the Texas Boll Weevil Eradication Foundation can now leverage the native Geocortex Mobile application on their iPad devices to really provide a streamlined user experience. From ensuring that field workers are actually on site when performing a trap inspection due to that geofencing rules that we've implemented, to incorporating more advanced validation rules, there's really less quality assurance required, saving both field workers as well as the underlying GIS staff time and money. Now, since 1999, the Texas Boll Weevil Eradication Foundation has provided over $1 billion in savings to the cotton industry. And they have completely eradicated the boll weevil in northern Texas. So this is a great customer success story highlighting how you can leverage GIS to really make a difference. I'm going to switch things over now to the Vermont Agency of Transportation, otherwise known as VTrans. Now, they're a government agency that is responsible for planning, constructing, and maintaining the transportation infrastructure of Vermont. And throughout Vermont, there are 48,000 small culverts that make up the small culvert inventory. And I believe there's approximately 20,000 drop inlets as well. And both of these assets need to be monitored on an ongoing basis. Now, the Vermont Agency of Transportation required a framework that allowed field workers to continuously monitor the conditions of these culverts and inlets to better prioritize maintenance, repairs, as well as replacements. And as part of this process, they wanted to ensure that the information being entered by these field workers when they're performing an inspection is validated to, again, reduce QA efforts. So let's dive in and see this application in action. Here you can see this is a field worker doing a culvert inspection. Okay, so here I'm going to navigate back to Geocortex Go and log in with a different ArcGIS Online identity. So here you can see I've now opened up Geocortex Go as my own user. And these are all of the applications that I've been building in the Geocortex Mobile Designer. One being the Vermont culvert inspection application here, which is at the top. And I'll select that and open it. So here you can see I'm now loading the VTrans web map for performing their small culvert inventory and drop inlet inspections. You can see there's a number of layers included in this. And if I navigate to my map areas tab here, I've also similarly created a map area and cached that information onto my device. So I'm going to activate this and zoom to Granville in Vermont. And here you can see I've got a couple of culverts as well as a couple of drop inlets as well within this area. So again, a field worker has the ability to now select a culvert of interest. And again, using the workflow technology, we've created some custom feature actions onto the top. So an end user has the ability to edit the culvert if they needed to increase the size of it, or rotate it for whatever reason, or inspect the culvert. So let's inspect this culvert here. So as you can see, there's a lot of attributes associated with this culvert that a field worker would then have to go through when they're out in the field and confirm. Now, what we're doing is we're populating all of the attributes from the last inspection. So this is all of the most up-to-date um, information that the last field worker entered when they were inspecting the culvert. And we've also dynamically set certain fields to being required, such as the corrosion of the inlet, if there's any corrosion. Maybe in this scenario there's some moderate corrosion, and so on. Now, I'm not going to go through all of these options here. As you can see, there's quite a lot, but here you can see we're navigating and using coded value domains. We've got numbers to really properly ensure that your field workers are entering the correct information and, again, reduce the amount of QA required. Now, if I scroll through this and select the drain type option here, I change this to private. The next time we perform an inspection, and this was a part of their business requirements, then we're going to see different required fields as well as a different set of attributes as well. So it's a dynamic form that will change depending on if the culvert is a private culvert or if it's anything that's not a private culvert. So I'm going to change that to private and, again, continue going through here. And here you can see we've also added this inspector option, which is getting the current email of the user who's logged in using the ArcGIS identities, as well as setting the inspection date that we are currently using. Now, if I was to remove the inspector, for example, and say that I verify that all of the fields are correct and click Save, then I'm going to see a required option here saying that, I need to enter my email in order to continue. Now, I also have the ability to upload photos as well while I'm doing the inspection. So let's select this option and upload a photo from our file gallery. This is a culvert image. And I also have the ability to capture an image as well. So here I'll capture an image, which will launch my on-device camera. Hey, you can see here I'm in our recording studio. I'll take a photo, upload that just to highlight that you can take photos and add them as attachments, and click Save here. So now what I'm doing here is I'm, again, performing that culvert inspection. You can see we've done an offline sync. And if I actually select this inspection again, you can see that if I scroll down, my inspector information got passed through, my attachments of me in the office and the culvert that I was actually inspecting got included. And the next time I actually go to inspect this culvert, we're going to see a little bit of a different form. So it's going to be a much smaller form here because I've now set the drain type to be private. And we've also got different required fields as well. So that's some logic that the Vermont Agency of Transportation had to integrate into their field data collection processes that they just couldn't accomplish with other mobile applications. And Workflow really provided the flexibility to create this intuitive interface that a field worker could walk through. I'm not going to do that again, but there you can see that's an example. Additionally here, if I select a drop inlet, I again have the ability to inspect this drop inlet, and it's, again, very similar process, and I've also got the ability to upload my photos and, again, verify that all of my required fields are correct. Last but not least, if I wanted to select this particular culvert here, and I wanted to edit it, maybe we were increasing the size of the culvert here, you can see I've now launched our editor tool, so I can actually click and drag and change the size and rotation of these, and I could even snap it to my current geolocation if I wanted to increase the size of a culvert. And again, this is a much more simplified form that a field worker could enter. Click Submit, and I've now performed 2 offline edits that I could then publish to my production geodatabase. The last thing that they required was the ability to add new culverts. So here I've got the ability to add a new culvert, which will open up a form, allow me to select a couple of points here, and then select the drain type. So maybe I'm building a private culvert and it's in great condition. click submit, and then here I've got 3 changes. I've edited one culvert, I've changed the size of another culvert, and then here I've created a new culvert. That was a lot of culverts that I've been working with. But there you can see again a great use case where an organization needed, these more kind of custom tailored processes, and they were able to leverage the workflow technology to really streamline that process. So just in summary, the Vermont Agency of Transportation are using Geocortex Mobile, and they've been using it to really create a mobile inspection application that allows field workers to rapidly inspect these assets in an intuitive interface. Now, they're currently using this to inspect culverts as well as drop inlets, but could very easily, move this on to other assets or applications. And Geocortex Workflow really provided VTrans with the flexibility to create that customized user experience that's really tailored to their field workers' requirements and business rules, regardless of whether they were disconnected or online. So in summary, Geocortex Mobile really allows you to build these mobile applications for your organizational needs for offline field data collection. And you can really make it your own by integrating Geocortex workflow with it to create those intuitive end user interactions. We also have the flexibility of being able to leverage Geocortex Go, which is that companion app that can be accessed from the Microsoft Store, the Google Play Store, the Apple iOS Store. And if you also have the requirement to create a native application that's branded with your own icon, and for example, this is the culvert inspection application, then Geocortex Mobile Designer, it actually ships with a build service that allows you to essentially build that application. And if we wanted to quickly see that in action, this is the Geocortex Mobile Designer where that GIS analyst or admin would build out these mobile applications. And the process is quite simple. We've got a template that you can leverage. You then select the web map of interest. So here I could search for all of the web maps that are shared with me or the web maps that I've created. In this scenario, I'm referencing the dev web map. And then I can configure my workflows either to the I want to menu or as underlying feature action. So if I navigate to the map tab here and select my traps and scroll down, you can see here I've added a feature action that calls a workflow to perform my trap inspection. And then I could push this to a production mobile application. And then once it's been pushed to production, I then would have the ability to create a native application. If I wanted to build my app for iOS, Android, or Windows, we essentially just need the developer codes or the provisioning profiles that you would have to retrieve from Apple in this scenario, and then we can build these applications as a single native app that you can deploy across your mobile users' devices. Again, I want to reiterate the applications that you build, they're always in sync. So we use Esri's replication geodatabase technology to take your data offline, and then when you send and push those changes back, they'll be synchronized with your production geodatabase. The Geocortex mobile application is built with the latest version of Esri's ArcGIS Runtime SDK for .NET, which essentially means that we're leveraging compelling new technology to ensure that we're aligned with Esri's roadmap, and the applications that you build will continue to work well and be able to be leveraged by your field workers in a native and efficient manner. Last but not least, I've been kind of reiterating this throughout the whole webinar today. One of the true benefits of leveraging Geocortex Mobile is this ability to take your workflows offline into the field, really to tailor those user interactions and custom validation that you might not be able to get without doing custom development. So if you're interested in getting started, you can actually access a trial of Geocortex Mobile from the ArcGIS Marketplace. You just navigate to the ArcGIS Marketplace and search for Geocortex Mobile, and you'll be able to find it. I believe there's a 60-day trial. If you already have access to Geocortex Mobile and you want to get started, I'd recommend taking the Geocortex workflow training that we provide, which really walks you through how to develop those dynamic forms that a field worker would kind of leverage when performing a particular inspection or survey. So definitely a great resource that I would recommend. And last but not least, if you want to just try out the technology, definitely recommend downloading Geocortex Go. We do ship with that sample app that you can launch without even having to log in with an ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise identity. And again, it's available for the App Store, Google Play Store, or Windows Store. Thank you all for listening. My name's Patrick Fingler. I hope you found the session valuable. Bye for now.